Whiskers, they can hear you.
I don't know why anybody would record this. They're going to use this against us later.
Absolutely. Yes.
Uh-oh. Good thing I got my mask on.
It's being recorded for friends that aren't able to participate so that we can share the link and they can watch it.
That's a great idea.
Hi, welcome.
They recognize anybody?
Do I? Yes, except for Larry.
I'm unrecognizable.
You are incognito
I am masked.
and shaded and hatted.
Uh,
It's a full costume.
Good point.
Would Larry like to explain himself?
No, I'm sorry. No explanations.
All right.
Christian asked, Christian actually had something off campus and is unable to log on to join us. But here's what he says: please give them a huge and warm greeting from me. So Christian is thinking about you guys and sad that it ended up, his schedule was changed unexpectedly and he wasn't able to join.
Yes, thank you. So people are still joining us, and
Hi.
I'm glad you all could make it. Oh, so wonderful to see you. I'm Anne Marie Tabor, class of 1979. More on that in a minute. We have often begun these meetings lately with a few minutes of our treasured only silence, in which we might wait and see if a couple more folks will join us. So let us be grateful for being together for a minute while I run off and grab a printout, and I'll come right back.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Erica.
Great to see you.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi.
Howdy.
Jeff. Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Jeff. How's it going, man?
All right. How are you all?
Hey, Ruth. Oh, my, look at everybody. Wow.
Just living the dream.
There's John Stuckey.
John.
Hey, I finally figured it
Oh,
out.
Honorary.
John.
Good to see everybody.
Hey, what a dude.
Hey.
Hi, I'm back. So that's enough silence then, right?
Yeah, we weren't very
Oops.
silent.
We don't do silence well.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I don't think so. Okay, while we're waiting, I just finished a Zoom meeting. I need to finish my notes. So I'll join you when I finish my notes.
Hey,
All right.
Minnesotan Kathy.
Yes. Hey, Minnesota, Erica.
Somebody else is joining us. That's our cue for another moment of silence. LOL.
Good luck with that.
Only students haven't always
Logan.
been the best at following
Ooh, Logan.
instructions
It's
or
Logan.
conforming. Yes, it's Logan.
Except we can't see
Oh,
it.
Logan. Wow.
Hey, Logan.
Slogan.
Doesn't look like
Oh,
Logan.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on here.
Like
There's
Larry.
videos happening. All right, well, continue. I'll see if I can figure it out.
Greetings all and welcome to your class reunion virtually of 2021. This is your 50-year reunion anniversary. A lot of you were able to join us at alumni meeting a few days ago, for which we are grateful. Thank you for welcoming the new graduates of 2021 into the Alumni Association, if you were able to be there. And here comes another one. So thank you for humoring our best attempt at a class reunion that is not in person. there have been a lot of threats and promises from reunion classes this year and last year to come back next year in person. So we're hoping to have 3 years worth of reunion classes. So pencil that onto your schedule for May 28th, 2022. That is the scheduled date of commencement next year. So as I was saying, our custom for these Zoom reunions lately has been to open with a round of reintroductions from everyone with a few words about something that's new to you in the last year or two, and something for which you are grateful about Olney, and anything about your connection to Olney that we don't already know because we know you, or we don't. As Shay mentioned a few minutes ago, yes, we're still coming in. I love it.
Phil Boulding.
Hi, Philip. Welcome. We're just getting
Phil.
started. We're going to be introducing and reintroducing ourselves with words about what's new in the last year or two and a gratitude for Olney. And then we'll spend some time
Who all those people
answering
are.
questions and catching up. So I will lead off if I may, and then I'll call on you in the order in which I see you on my screen so I can make sure everyone gets a chance to speak. I'm Anne Marie Tabor from the class of 1979. When you graduated, I was a 10-year-old faculty brat, I believe.
Yeah, I remember.
We
Yeah,
will
some of-
remember. Yes, we remember.
Some of you may have babysat me and little Debbie. Thank you. And I sent 2 of my 3 sons to Olney, so I've been a parent, and then I joined the staff as librarian about 10 years ago and have added a few other duties since that time. Now, including development, which is including alumni relations, which is why I am here with you today. Thank you. New to me in the last year or two has been a whole lot of Zooming, as well as other different ways of being with people I love when I can't be with them in the ways that we're used to, like calling my grown sons a little bit more often on the phone. And I'm always grateful to Olney for today, for the connections with amazing people all over this country and around the world that have some common bonds of friendship and acceptance and service that bring us together and help us move through the world. So that's me. And now I would like to call on Kathy, if you're willing to say a couple of words about what's new with you this last year or two and a gratitude of Olney.
Which Kathy?
Oh, I'm sorry. Papazian.
There we go.
And oh, one more word of housekeeping. It is customary to mute one's own Zoom mic unless one is speaking. This cuts down on background noise that can often be confusing. Okay, thank you, Kathy. Go ahead, please.
So I'm Kathy Cooper. If some of you don't recognize me, but I think I look about the same as I used to. During the past year, I've taken up bread baking like a lot of people across the country. So sourdough bread baking has been fun to do, and lots more cooking and gardening and sewing. And over the years, I mean, I appreciate Olney for the friendships that I made and the connections that I keep up with. I don't do a lot of travel, but I have made a few trips to see Amy, and I've seen Joanna Hearn and was planning to in April this year, but that got nixed. I mean, in 2020, that got nixed. So hopefully next year I'll make a trip to Arizona. I have a couple friends there, someone else from Earlham. And I have two grown sons. One's in San Francisco and the other is in Cambridge, Massachusetts. So those are two other places fun to visit and be with them. My son from Cambridge, Mass, has spent a lot of time with us during COVID because he works from home and joins us on the Cape for weekends. So that's been fun. Good to see everybody.
Yes.
Thank you, Kathy. Thanks for joining us today.
Okay.
Okay, let's see. Next up on my screen, Martina, please unmute and tell us something about what's new with you in the last year or two, where you're calling from, and a gratitude.
I'm calling from York in England, the old one rather than the new one. I moved here about 4 years ago. I live in a retirement community, which is quite odd because I'm probably one of the youngest people living here. And in the last few years, well, like everybody else, the last 18 months have been quite odd, and I've done a lot less travel. Well, I haven't done any travel since March last year, whereas before I traveled quite a lot. The last paid job I had was 10 years of working for Quaker Council for European Affairs in Brussels. And I stopped doing that in 2012. For me, Olney was kind of a life-changing experience, although I was there for only a year. And I still wear the T-shirt every day, almost. I have a whole pile of them. And, you know, if I don't have the sweatshirt that everybody can see, there's always the T-shirt underneath. And it's kind of, it's a significant part of my life, and my life would have been completely different without it. So I'm very grateful to it. It's also the fact that one does meet Olney alumni from time to time. I've moved in Quaker circles most of my adult life, and it's quite astonishing at how many international Quaker events people pop up, and, you know, we take photos of 3 or 4 Olney alumni who just happen to be there. So yeah, it's been really good. And I have to say special thank you to John, who with his many trips to London kept up the connection diligently. And we've been to many a theatre together, haven't we, John?
Yes, we have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Martina. Thank you so much for joining us today. Next, I would like to call on my colleague and co-worker and partner in non-crime who greeted you first this afternoon and is next door to me. Shay, a few quick words.
Hi, guys. So I just finished up my 3rd school year with Olney. So I really only got one normal Olney school year. And then last year over spring break, our students didn't come back. So didn't get to really participate in commencement, learning all the Zoom things, learning how to communicate with folks in a different way. And then at the start of this school year, so unbelievably happy to have students back on campus. It was different for everybody. And now it's strange to not be wearing a mask in my office. Every time I leave my desk, I feel like I'm forgetting something. I feel fortunate for being at Olney every day. I do live on campus, and you know, my dogs love it. They run amok now. They grew up as city dogs, and now they're having the Olney experience as well. I love the faculty and staff. I love, you know, the community. The folks who were faculty brats and grew up went out into the wider world and then came back. I think that says a lot about who and what Olney is.
Thank you, Shay. Thanks for joining us. Shay has been assisting with development and alumni relations ever since she's been here. So this is a great opportunity for her to meet you all. She'll be one of the people working with various connection requests and donations and all of that business. So thank you for being part of our team, Shay. Next, I would like to ask Penny Bliss to unmute and reintroduce to us with a few words about what's new and what's your gratitude.
So I guess let me think about what's new. I've been in Vermont for a very long time, so that's not so terribly new. I partially retired, so I'm just working afternoons now, and have published a illustrated and published a children's book. There's another one coming. That's kind of a sideline, so not what I do in afternoons, but so busy with the garden and a house. My husband passed away a few years ago, but so the garden got a little smaller, but still here, still gardening, still enjoying Vermont. And thankful for all the sense of community that Olney taught us in our youth, because I think a lot of that sense of community has maybe helped a lot of us see through this last year. I live in a pretty small town in Vermont, and we all kind of bonded together in ways that we could, and that helped to see us through. So, and it's nice to see everybody. It's been a while.
Thanks, Penny. Thanks so much for joining us today. It's good to see you. Catherine Kanazawa, can you speak next with something new in the last year or two and something grateful?
Kathy McDowell. And let's see, something new is mostly the grandkids. My oldest grandkid is going to be 3 soon in August, and I have an unexpected young granddaughter born in February. She was a big mistake. Son's not married, so but she's a sweetie, and we get to see her often, and my son gets to see her twice a week, so it's very nice. I have 2 sons, both in their 30s now. One's living in St. Paul and one's living in Minneapolis, so if they're close by, we get to see them often, because I babysit my grandson twice a week, and they bring him down here and we take him back. So that's been our bubble, I guess, during the pandemic, is just being able to communicate with family and be with family, which has been a real pleasure. Let's see, my husband's still working at Carleton College. He's a professor and teaching online, so he's keeping busy. Let's see, what else? Oh, I'm retired. I've worked at a co-op for 15 years and retired 2 years ago, although I worked some during the winter to help them out because a lot of staff fled. And let's see, we're still folk dancing when we can. We're starting to dance again just this past weekend, actually, which has been wonderful. Let's see, what else? Oh, and yeah, and I'd like to do a big shout out to John, because John has just been magnificent at keeping us all kind of together. I'm terrible at Facebook, but I still appreciate seeing all the Facebook things going on. And it was wonderful when John 25 years ago got us all together for our 25th, and keep it up, John. This has been wonderful. So,
all right. Did you mention what you're grateful for about Olney?
Oh, well, the community. I mean, I still
Okay.
appreciate coming back every 5 years for the community experience and just to see everyone, and it has a special place in my heart, you know.
Good to know. Thank you, and thank you for joining us today. It's great to see you. And Larry Sidwell, can you go next with an unmute and what's new to you and a gratitude?
Yeah, I'm good to go. So I don't see Gretchen on the call, and I just got off the phone talking to her, and thought she was going to be zooming in. I know she's in kind of a remote location with her work down there, so hopefully we're able to connect with her. Wanted to thank her for both her engagement, her speech at the school a month or so ago, and also echo Catherine's comments about John Stanley, our class mother, who's done such a wonderful job of keeping us all engaged and organized. So kudos to both of them for all their work. And also, Anne Marie, I need to call you out for starting this whole thing off with some fake news, more fake news. I think we need a recount. There's no way it's been 50 years since we graduated. I mean, maybe 20 years have passed, but there's no way it's been 50 years. Give me a break.
Sorry.
But anyway, so this is great to see everybody. I am so excited. I would be thrilled if there's some way that we're able to connect in person next year. I mean, Zoom is fine, but I'm tired of Zoom calls, and I'm ready to give people hugs and get back together and have a glass of wine together and visit a little more than we're going to be able to do today. So that would be something I would greatly look forward to if we're able to somehow find a way to get us all back together again. Actually, I'm quite impressed to see the group we have on the call today. So this is really exciting. Just a couple of things real quick. New to me is retiring recently, but I'll say retirement has been fantastic. I feel like I'm 18 all over again, because for the first time in my life, I'm able to do all the things I always wanted to do when I was a young man and a young kid, and now I have time to do them. So with 4 grown kids and 8 grandkids, all living within 5 miles of our house here in Des Moines, we are exceptionally busy, along with some outside activities. I did recently go on the board at Wilmington College, and so I'm on the board with cousin Rich Sidwell, and that's a very consuming amount of work, as you can imagine, with all the challenges in higher education, but it's also a way to reconnect with many of the Quaker themes and Quaker community, and some connections with Alney as well. Excited to see some of the changes at Alney. I think that's fantastic, and so we're hopeful post-COVID to be able to see a regeneration and a regrowth going forward, and we'll be excited to re-engage and support there as well. One thing I will say, and I echo what others of you had said, but in terms of being grateful, my experience at Alney was fantastic. I mean, I felt like I was at a summer camp the whole time. It was a lark for me. I really enjoyed the engagement. I thought we had a fabulous class. And as John Stanley says, best class ever, right? And I really felt that. And I can't tell you how many times through my business career and a lot of different environments where things that I learned at Alney, I was able to use and practice in very beneficial ways. And so I give a lot of credit to that to all of you as far as teaching and the Alney community. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you so much for joining us today. I still continue to hope and expect that Gretchen will be joining us as soon as possible. I know that she was planning to, but even so, you have already achieved an admirable attendance with everyone who RSVP'd except for Gretchen is here, and 2 more that I hadn't known to expect. So you guys are doing great. Thank you. Thank you. And next, may I ask Sharon Newland to reintroduce yourself to us all with a few words about what's new and a gratitude.
Hi, I'm Sharon Newland, Sharon Smith. I recently retired. I'm currently here in Ohio visiting my sister, Barb. So mom is here too. She'll be 90, or she is 90, she'll be 91 this year. So this is the first time I've been able to see her in the last year and a half. So I'm thoroughly enjoying this trip. We got to go to a wedding. Barb's daughter got married. They got engaged just before everything fell apart. So they waited a long time to get married. So we were very happy to be able to come out and join them. So far, I am loving in retirement. I have 2 granddaughters. They're almost 6 and 3. So they're at a fun age. I just enjoy watching them. I loved growing up at Olney, being a faculty brat, getting to see everybody every year. And I feel like I have taken that community with me wherever I go. It's always good to see people I know. It's good to see all of you. And I really hope we can get together in person. I'm not real comfortable with the Zoom thing. I really would like to give each of you a hug and say thanks for being you. So, thank you.
Great. Thanks, Sharon, and thank you so much for joining us today. Even those of us that have had lots of practice with Zoom aren't always comfortable with it. Trust me on that. It's surprisingly tiring, but that's neither here nor there. Thank you for being here in the way that we can. Erica, hi, thanks for joining us. Can you unmute and speak next with a few words about what's new and what you're grateful for Olney too?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Well, I'm up here in Minnesota with Kathy in Kanazawa, and my husband Dave and I live in St. Paul, the capital, right across the river from Minneapolis. And as you know, there's been a whole lot happening here in the last year. Craziness, violence, really rough stuff. And let's see, something that happened recently is that I retired. I'm from teaching languages. I've been doing that for a long time. I've taught English as a second language and French and German, believe it or not. Ja, Deutsch. Ich kann jetzt Deutsch sprechen, Martina. So anyhow, I'm on Facebook with some of you, so you know what's kind of been going on with me. I guess the other thing that's been exciting in this past year is that we got a kitten, sweet little kitty named Mochi. And she has kind of saved my sanity, I would say. And I tried to do a lot of Zooming with students this past year. And I mean, it was what it was. We did what we could. But now I am finally retiring. Dave retired last summer, and we're hoping to travel. We don't know exactly where yet, but I used to travel a lot, and then we didn't for a long time. I didn't for a really long time, and now I want to travel again. We have a son named Marty. He is 27. He lives kind of nearby, and he's a musician. He is a drummer, and he plays keyboard and piano. And he was in a group for a while, and they were performing around the Twin Cities. But then the pandemic came, and so, but they did some recording, and his day job was working at a bookstore, Barnes & Noble. And let's see, Olney for me was, it was a really rough time for my family because they were living overseas, and then my parents got divorced, and they had been living in the Middle East, and there was a lot going on there, like there always is. And so Olney for me was a very important community at a very difficult time in my life. And since then, I've sought out other communities and found them. I was in a really, really wonderful community at McAllister College here in St. Paul. And let's see, since then, I've taught in a Montessori school in Minneapolis, and that was another wonderful community. I taught French there. And then just in the last 6 years, I've been teaching in a German immersion school. And actually my German's gotten a lot better. So Martina, wir können jetzt auf Deutsch sprechen, ja? So
Yes,
anyway,
but German has got a lot worse.
bitte? Oh, your German's gotten worse? No, I don't believe it. Well, anyhow, I love learning and speaking other languages and traveling, as you know, you probably all know. And yeah, so Olney gave me a really good example of a community, and I connected with many of you and all of you in some ways. And I didn't realize how important that was to me until, you know, later in my life. So thank you, all of you. And especially thank you, John Stanley, some kind of a cousin, because my mom was Margaret Stanley, for getting us connected and keeping us connected. And thank you, John Stuckey, because you helped me grieve for Nate's passing. Nate Kirk, he and I were very close at one point. I think it was my freshman year. Anyway, thank you for playing this music.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. Thanks for joining us. Organic moment of silence in solidarity of emotion. And yeah, Jeff Nagel, when you are ready, please unmute and speak the words.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm here in Tacoma, Washington, just arrived a few days ago. Like several of you, I've just retired, and well, not officially until July, but effectively retired from teaching chemistry for many years at Bowdoin College in Maine. And I'm out here in Tacoma because my daughter and her family are out here. And so I have 3 grandchildren out here. And my son is still in Maine, in Scarborough, Maine. So he's married and has a daughter. So I have 1 grandchild on the East Coast. And I intend to spend, at least initially, the first couple of years going back and forth as much as the pandemic permits to see grandchildren. I decided not to locate in Iowa, Larry, and be halfway between, but hey, let's see, I'm very grateful for community, and just looking at faces on the screen, I know I've seen many of you in recent years, including Philip Boulding, who's here. I'm very glad to see you here, Philip. And I'll let you say more about your situation, but I guess it was about 4 or 5 years ago that we stopped by and saw you at your house. And when I say we, I mean my partner, Wendy Meacham, who was Wendy Miller at Olney, class of 75. And Wendy lives in Northport, Maine. And I actually met her at Olney commencement in 2014. So many reasons to be grateful for Olney. And oh, here's Gretchen. Good to see you, Gretchen.
Hi, Gretchen.
I actually saw Gretchen in Tasmania about 3 years ago, I think it was now. And and Kathy, Kanazawa, a nice lunch with you before this very violent hailstorm hit, just as I was leaving, on my way actually to the Northwest, to Tacoma, or actually Vancouver at that time. I've been across many times. Anyway, what am I going to do in retirement other than be a grandfather? I don't know. I'm taking the time to, the reality of it still hasn't set in because I worked very hard until last week getting my office and lab cleared out before I left Maine. And so it's just dawning on me that I'm really retired. So we'll see how things go. But it's encouraging to hear from the rest of you that you're enjoying retirement. So I should get there soon.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you so much for joining us. And welcome, Gretchen. If you can hear us, I'm happy to see that you are joining. We are a little more than halfway through our reintroductions to one another, in which we're filling in some gaps by saying a few words about what is new in the last year or two for us, and also something for which we are grateful to Alni. So we'll resume that and come around to Gretchen shortly. Hi, I see your face now. Next, I would like to ask Ruth to please unmute and then say a few words on what's new and on gratitude.
Okay, 2015, I was diagnosed. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, great. Hey, Sharon. 2015, I was diagnosed with Parkinson's, and I was working as a director level at supply chain management for most of my career, which I really, really enjoyed. But knowing that Parkinson's, my grandmother had Parkinson's, I was quite familiar with what was entailed and what your lifestyle needed to be, what you needed to treat a disease that is really unknown at this point on how to monitor that. So I took my disability from work, and then officially after my disability ran out, retired. And retirement, as you all said, is great. I love it. I love the peacefulness, and I love my farm. I had 130 some acres. Last year we sold off the back 90 acres, so I still have 33 acres and 5 horses that we take care of. And so hanging out during the lockdown in Kentucky was pretty good. Kentucky wasn't hit real hard with COVID, but living out that in the country when this hit and the people were off the highway, it was just like the sky was completely blue. I mean, I hadn't seen it that blue and clear since I was a kid. And that was refreshing. I loved that piece. It was like, okay, if the world could stay like this, it would be great. But it's not going to. So just enjoying my farm here, and I am doing relatively good with Parkinson's. I help lead the local chapter of the support group, and that's been interesting. It's been fun, been kind of depressing because you do lose people every once in a while. But that's my life. I try to be peaceful and taking care of myself and enjoying the farm and the nature, and just going out and sitting underneath a tree sometimes. Hey, John, how you doing? Thanks for putting this stuff together, Cousin John. Doing okay?
Anne Marie gets all the credit.
Anne Marie helped me this morning. Thank you, Anne Marie.
Some of it. Thank you. You're welcome. Did you?
As far as Alni's.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay. Yep. So as far as Alni and going back to Alni, it's like Alni's like a magnet. It's always going to draw you back. And I guess I haven't put my finger on it yet. But that's it. Good to see you all.
All right. Thank you. Thanks so much for joining us today. It's great to meet you. And so next on my screen, I see Philip Bolding. Can you please unmute and then speak a few words on what's new and gratitude?
Yes, indeed. What's new in the last 50 years? I haven't seen any of you except for Jeff Nagel, who is now practically my next door neighbor in Tacoma. And it's been wonderful to see Jeff first at our concerts in Maine when we'd go on spring tour. And then lo and behold, he shows up in Tacoma, and I see him at the farmer's market and And it's been great to connect with you, Jeff. But otherwise, I've been woefully out of touch with everyone. I kind of apologize for that because I get a lot of the newsletters, but I just, I just haven't been in touch. I was at Olney for a year and a half, and that year and a half was very significant part of my life. And I guess actually I would start with just a word of gratitude to all of you because you're all a part of me, part of my growing up, and I still have indelible memories of that year and a half at Olney. And occasionally some catchphrases come back to mind that I can't seem to shake loose. That I think were created at Olney and I never heard anywhere else. One of them is Bo Fine. I don't know if you all remember that one, but Bo Fine to see you all, you know. But anyway, I'm going to try to encapsulate in a few words, if I can, the last 50 years, because upon graduation, started building guitars, and I graduated from Boulder High School, which is where I was living in Boulder, Colorado at the time. Started building guitars, moved out to the Northwest in the mid-70s, saw someone playing a Celtic harp and totally fell in love, and that changed my life. So I've been building harps and performing on harps ever since, to this day. In fact, I have a little sample of one right here. So this is what I build in my shop, and I make small ones and big ones. So Jeff, if you're looking for what to do in retirement, you know, I'm right here. Take up the harp, man. No. So I married in 1980 and instantly inherited 4 young boys. 2 years later, I had a daughter of our own. She is now a violinist with the Seattle Symphony and married and just had her first child, rather later on than earlier. Beautiful little girl named Freya. We have 6 grandchildren, 5 children, and a 7th one is on the way up north in Kingston. Still half the clan is on the East Coast and half on the West Coast. So this past 40 years, 2 of our signature things of the year would be East Coast Spring Tour, and then our Yuletide concerts that we did with our family and guest artists and Irish dancers. So been very involved in Irish music and in composing our own works. We have 20 recordings that we've done. And that spring tour happened unfailingly every year until the pandemic hit. And that's when we would see the East Coast part of our family. And that's where I first met Jeff in Maine at one of our concerts, which was amazing. Out of the blue, he just showed up after the concert. Jeff, so the pandemic hit, and all of a sudden the spring tour was canceled, point blank, just like that. And it was our first time in 40 years to experience spring on Magic Hill. And I didn't tell you about where I live here, but we're at the end of a dead-end road on the Kitsap Peninsula, only 20 minutes drive from the Narrows Bridge, which would take you to Tacoma and to visit my friend Jeff. But it's absolutely beautiful here. It's paradise. I have my shop here where I build the instruments, and I've got the studio upstairs where I teach my classes. And still building harps. I'm pretending to be retired these days, enjoying that very much. The problem is that retirement for me is doing what I've always loved doing my whole life. So I'll keep working till the day I die because it's what I love to do. But a little less pressure, that's the good part. I love the less pressure. But I love making music, and I love building harps still. And I love my family. They're scattered hither and yon. And it's really great to see you all. This is marvelous. I was wondering what you would all look like 50 years later. Well, you've hardly changed a bit, like, you know. Anyway, thank you for inviting me to this. I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you for joining us. It's wonderful to see you and all of you. And yeah, John Stuckey, would you like to go next with a few words of what's new and what is your gratitude?
Well, being an honorary member of your class is new, and I really appreciate it. It's an honor. Many of you were and are best friends and always have been. And since I retired, I hit the ground running. I wore out my first camper van, and traveled with Phoebe twice and John Stanley once and saw Martina in London, and I just only provided it opened up the world, because oddly enough, for a rural school, it sure brought together all sorts of people from all sorts of places.
Yeah.
And like Ruth says, it's a magnet. I've been back so many times, like John Stanley. I guess the only drawback is that people tend to go back for their class reunions. So I always find myself missing people that I really connected with. And I'm hoping next year with this ERA class reunion, 50-year anniversaries, that with 3 classes, maybe it'll be a big draw and a big party. I hope, because I want to hug everybody too. So Alnia is a big, important part of my life. I love traveling to see you all, and I love the connections we've had over the years. I don't think I've had any other connections quite as close, except for when I was at Friends Hospital. And I have some best friends there I still keep touch with. So I sure hope we can get together next year and have a big time together. I'd really love to just visit with all of you. I love you all.
Thank you, John. Thank you so much for joining this group today. And Karen, you're up next on my screen. Can you please unmute and then say a word or two about what is new and gratitude?
So I am currently in Louisville, but I also spend time, my husband and I, we have my mom and dad's house in Cincinnati, which is in it's in town, but it's actually a very wooded area, kind of a unique place. I taught in the public schools, was stubborn enough to make it to my magic retirement numbers, but I also was able to find a really unique business that teaches reading. And when I say teaches reading, I don't mean tutoring. I mean, we take students who are not able to read and are crying over their homework and really out of touch with what's going on in school. We teach them to read, and it's miraculous. So I was able to connect with them before I retired and just kind of slip right into working for them. And now I can, with Zoom, I can be in Louisville, which is where I am now, in front of our Murphy bed, because we do Airbnb our Louisville house. And then I can be in, when somebody's staying here, they're coming in tomorrow, we'll go to Cincinnati and I can teach from there. I'm not teaching as many hours, so I guess I'm sort of semi-retired. But that's basically what's going on with me. I'm kind of up and down, 71, 75. And really grateful to John for staying in touch even before Facebook. He would come through a couple of times through Louisville and stop and visit, and helped me stay in touch. Facebook, I really enjoy all the posts that people make. And it, again, helps me to continue to feel that community. Only was I guess, allowed me to survive high school. as an only child, I did have some other connections in the neighborhood, but going to Olney just really allowed me to do a number of different things. I liked the farm, and I liked being in the woods and apple picking and all those kinds of things. It was great having kind of an extended family rather than just kind of being on my own a little bit more. So it really was as a kind of a survival for me as far as making it through those crummy years of high school. So it's great seeing all your faces. I'm really grateful, and it was fun. I was able to connect with Gretchen and she helped me get to some of the reunions. So that was great too. So thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Thanks for joining us. I hear that something like that, helping to survive high school from many students, even today. A lot of the things that you have mentioned in your gratitudes are still in place, in play, and helping today's students. Just FYI. And next up, I have three more: Logan, then Gretchen, and then last but never least, John Stanley. So Logan, can you please unmute and say a few words of what is new recently and of gratitude?
All right, thank you, Anne Marie, and thank you, Shay, for also helping organize this. And again, like everybody, thank you, John Stanley, for being the glue that binds. He's managed to keep me in the loop, even though I don't use Facebook. And kind of one of the cool things is one of the first harbingers of the pandemic loosening was John getting a flight out to the West Coast, and we had dinner together in this nice vegetarian restaurant in one of the beach towns here. It's been several weeks now, but that was great. I am living in the Los Angeles area. I've been in California since 1973. I'm married to Terry Bleacher. We have a daughter, Annabelle, who is 23. One of the things that's new is she's been living with us for the last little while, and is just about to get her own place in the LA area. So that's a new thing and a good thing. I'm not retired. I'm working as an electrical engineer for a medical electronics firm, and I've been working entirely remotely during the pandemic, although I was working remotely 3 days a week prior, so it wasn't a huge jump. And as another new thing, I actually drove down to the office, which is about 100 miles away, yesterday, and they were having a little sort of reopening of the office celebration. So that was nice, again, just to see things loosening up a little bit. And Ruth reminded me of the early months of the pandemic, how wonderful the air was in LA all of a sudden. And then it slowly got worse and worse and worse as things sort of, people started, doing more stuff even in spite of the lockdown anyway. But yeah, it's good to hear everybody's good reports on retirement. I see that, in the near horizon, and I look forward to it and also have some trepidation, but I'm sure it'll be a good thing. And just in regards to Olney, I'm tremendously grateful for, as many people said, for this wonderful community during a very exciting, informative, and tumultuous time in my life. And I'm just so grateful to have had that then. And I could see it certainly could have gone a whole different way without it. I was in listening to people talk, I just was reminded of a story which actually comes up quite a bit when people ask me, about Olney, what do you remember? And it was, I can't remember which year it was, but it was early in the fall, and there had been a windstorm. It had blown down the corn crop on one of the plots, I think by the Plummer place. And the corn was on the ground, and the mechanical harvesters couldn't pick it. So the whole school turned out on a Saturday to pick corn, and teacher Paul fried donuts in this giant iron cauldron on a wood fire. And it was just wonderful. A combination of being outdoors and just that glorious crisp fall day and doing a shared task with 100 other kids and the donuts. And it was just a very wonderful little microcosm of the Olney experience. Well, anyway, I guess that's, I could go on and on, but that's it. Again, thank you everybody who put this together. This is great.
Thank you, Logan, and thank you for joining us. Next up, Gretchen Stone. Unmute.
Hi. Can you hear me okay? Yeah,
yes.
Good. I apologize for being late. I was so psyched for this. And then I ended up getting a job on short notice. Thursday, I was asked to fly to the Northern Territory, and I forgot we're on a different time zone, which is why I'm late getting in on this call. So the time zone here is half an hour behind Tasmania, which is where I'm primarily living right now. And it was really cool actually seeing Phil's shock of white hair when his picture came up, because obviously it reminded me of a certain family member that you're related to. And my youngest got married in March, Peter, and I was asked to read something for his wedding, and I thought, well, Kenneth Boulding's sonnets. And so I found some, and then I ended up deciding to write one of my own instead, but it was just lovely having that little bit of a, of course I got to know you all Bouldings through Olney, but it's been an ongoing influence. The last couple of years, we actually spent most of this year in Ohio. We went there last June from Tassie and then ended up staying because of the pandemic. And we were also working a lot on the election, and very grateful for at least some victories in the election. And then we came back here last month, and there's just goo gobs of work. I'm the family practice doc. And so I picked up a couple weeks in my old practice to sort of put my toe back in the water. And then I got this call saying, would I go work in the Northern Territory for 3 weeks doing COVID quarantines? That's what I'm doing. But things I'm grateful for. I came to my sister's reunion 2 years ago, and somehow I've lost all you on the screen. Can you still hear and see me?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Okay. There's John. Okay, good. It went black there for a while. I'm on my phone because I was having trouble getting on the computer. But anyway, there was an Airbnb outside Barnesville where Sylvia Thomas and my sis and Joe Stuckey and a few other, Dave Nagel, stayed, and Lisa Kayard, and I ended up staying there as well. And when I woke up Saturday morning, Joe had brought coffee from Costa Rica, and we were all sitting out looking over the waving grasses on the back deck. And somebody started singing all the songs we learned in German class. And it turned out we all knew them and we all remembered the harmonies. And it was just the most beautiful thing on the back deck. So that's just a tiny example. But I'm, again, very much looking forward to seeing you guys all next year. And I'm glad this is being recorded because I can catch up on the ones I missed.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you, Gretchen, for joining us today. Thank you for your words. And last but never least, John Stanley, please say a few words about what's new in the last year or two and a gratitude.
Well, greetings from Central New Jersey, aka Paradise on Earth. And I'm not saying that facetiously, as my BFF John Stuckey has called it, my little piece of heaven. I've lived here now 22 years, the longest I've lived in a single place in my life. I haven't been putting on mute because I had some trouble at alumni meeting with a bulky old iPad that I'm on, where it wasn't muting and unmuting. I tried to mute it earlier, and instead it blanked out the video for some reason. So I just decided, I'm hoping that the sound of the birds and the occasional frog from the goldfish pond right there hasn't been bothersome to anybody. When I did this last year, I actually was told to mute because I was in Center City, Philadelphia, and apparently the sound of birds, not traffic, but birds in Center City, Philadelphia was bothersome to some. I believe that I heard once that a reunion is getting together with a bunch of people who used to be the same age as you. So I'm kind of experiencing that now, but I'm sure you probably are all experiencing the same thing. I do have to point out that there was one untruth uttered a little while ago by someone, but it's okay, given our age, maybe the person doesn't realize it's untruth. I go back to late 1970s. I'm out visiting our classmate Amy Marshall DeLay when she first moved to Seattle, and we're in the Pioneer Square area on a Saturday morning, and in like a breakfast area, enjoying a brunch area in a central courtyard, and there's over there is someone playing beautiful harp music, and we look over and one of us says, "That looks like Phil Bolding." It turned out to be. So yes, Philip, you have seen Amy and myself, although she's not here with us today, since our time at school together. But that would be the only time I think we laid eyes on each other. The rest of you I've seen on layovers. I'm fortunate enough, unlike most of you slackers, I'm still actually flying. Saw Logan, as he mentioned, about a month ago there. And I have to say my appreciation to Olney, I will use Martina as an example of that, because in the mid-90s, I would say, we hadn't heard much from her, and she wrote into the Olney Current saying she had relocated to London. I'm like, London? Okay, I'm there all the time. So, but there's always the hesitation, like you haven't seen somebody. And in Martina, in my case, we had not seen each other literally since she was there at the end of our junior year. And, but we got to, she comes over to my hotel, we walk in, and it was like 20 years vanished. We ended up spending like 3 hours talking and just getting caught up on each other's lives. And I remember being impressed because she had, as you recall, when she was a student at Olney, she had a very thick German accent, understandably so, since it was her first time living in an English-speaking country. And my ear didn't pick up any German accent. And I asked her, I wonder if Martina remembers her response to this. I asked her if, to me, she sounded British. And I asked Martina, do people think you're from here? And she said, they can't quite figure out where I'm from. They think I'm Canadian. So as a half Canadian, I appreciated that. That's about it. I don't need to talk anymore. Nice seeing you all. There's one or two other things I was going to say, but you know, given our age, we forget things. Half an hour from now, I'll remember what I wanted to say.
Thank you, John. We may still be here in half an hour.
Yeah, I hope to see all of you in next year. And John Stuckey and Don Gwynn are planning a big Gwynnen Fest, for lack of a better term, a Woodstock at Olney. And it's going to be a 3-year, 50-year reunion for 70, 71, and 72 next year. So let's plan on seeing all you back there next year, okay?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, John. And that concludes our introductions, which only took an hour. So to sum things up, we've got another 45 minutes allowed on the Olney Zoom account clock, in which to quickly talk a little bit about questions you may have about Olney for Olney staff. That's Shay and myself. Our head, Christian Chema, was planning to be here, but a last-minute schedule disruption made that impossible. But we can probably answer any questions you have, and also talk a little bit about ways that we can help you stay connected and ways that you can help us. So let me, I guess, start out by asking for questions. What do you want to know about how Olney is doing and what is working for us? Yes, Gretchen.
What's happening with the student body these days? I know it's really international, and I know there were a lot of visa issues this year, and I'm just wondering what next year looks like.
Yes, thank you for that. The student body is about 50% international this year and last year. The importance of the international component has grown steadily slowly but steadily and maybe increasingly rapidly in the last few years, since you were here as students and before. But yeah, we're projecting to have about 35 students when we open in the fall, if the pipeline works as it is supposed to. We've been doing a lot of interviews of prospective students in the last couple of months, since our current director of admissions, and it's called enrollment now, our director of enrollment and marketing joined us. She has got a lot of energy and is doing a great job finding and working with leads for prospective students. And we might have had that many at the beginning of this past year had it not been for the pandemic. But unfortunately, we had 11 international students who were going to be very well-paying students who could not get their visa to come here due to the pandemic closing embassies in their countries. And so that was a large negative impact on our bottom line for the last year. A lot of income that we were expecting that did not deliver. A few of them were able to get visas and join us around the middle of last year. So we're grateful for that. And we are grateful for the government's PPP loans, payroll protection loans, which was another thing that helped us get through the year financially in better shape than we might have without it. Did I answer the question about student body satisfactorily?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, who else has a question about Olney today? You can unmute and speak or raise your hand. Yes, Martina, unmute and speak.
It really follows on from Gretchen's question. To what extent are you connecting with international Quaker organizations, in other words, other yearly meetings in other parts of the world, to attract students? Because from my point of view, coming to Olney, having grown up in a small yearly meeting, although German yearly meeting is the, I think, third largest in Europe, but it's still very, very small, was a really important development of my involvement with Quakers. And I think there have been other kids from Germany who've been at Olney in the years since I was there and before. And I think there's young Quakers now in Europe and probably in other parts of the world who would benefit from it. But I don't know to what extent you're connected with the yearly meeting structures and therefore people actually know about the opportunity.
Thank you, Martina. That's a great question. To my knowledge, we have not had many, if any, connections with international yearly meetings in recent years. There has been turnover from time to time in the admissions department, and while I expect that is something that we have done in the past, it might be something that we could pick back up again. So thank you for bringing that to mind. We have, other than that, our connections, our ways to get international students have been heavily word of mouth and family related. We have had a steady trickle of students coming from Germany. We have another one coming this year, and there have been several students. They tend to come for their junior year, but there have been several during my time here, which is about 10 years, and I think probably in the intervening years too. So currently we have a lot of students from Uganda, South Africa, Ethiopia. Help me out, Shay. We have our first ever
coming from Rwanda for next school year.
Okay, we've had several in the past, so another
South
one is good. And we had our first student from Malawi this year, another African nation. And our new enrollment director is from Ghana, so is in position to leverage her own connections with that continent. We've had streams periodically from countries including Serbia, Costa Rica, of course, sometimes Ecuador, and China, Japan, Korea, India. Yeah, so I love the idea of reaching out to international yearly meetings, and we'll put that in our enrollment director's pile.
I will say, when I first came to ONI, Christian asked me to help try to schedule phone calls and email exchanges with some international Quaker groups. And after connecting them and getting names and kind of introducing them electronically to each other, I was out of the loop. I don't think anything really came of that for Christian. I don't think there was a lot of interest in folks. I mean, nowadays it just seems like the distance for people is an issue. Even students who are domestic, I have had conversations with families from New York and with schools in New York. There's actually a farm school, I forget what it's called off the top of my head, but they have school in New York City, and then as the students are in 7th and 8th grade, they spend part of their time in northern New York on a working farm. But those families are all like, oh my gosh, no, Ohio, that's too far. That's too far. So that part of it's been tough.
Yeah, that is definitely a factor with both domestic and international students. At the same time, there's always a market internationally for students to do high school in the U.S. as preparation for wanting to go to college in the United States. And it is always worth revisiting things that we might have tried a few years ago. Things change rapidly. The pandemic shows us that.
Anne Marie?
Yes.
I have a family connection with the Quaker school in Ramallah in the West Bank.
Yes.
My nephew is on the board and his kids go to school there. So the West Bank of Palestine. And so perhaps that could be useful, helpful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you would like to send me his contact information,
okay,
I could get it to our appropriate personnel, and you could work on that.
Great.
Thank you.
Great. Mm-hmm.
Yes, Gretchen.
When we were looking to move to Tasmania in 2005, I happened to be at a board meeting and Nancy Taylor mentioned that the biggest Quaker school in the world was here in Tasmania. And it's like 1,300 kids, believe it or not. It's so different from Olney. My kids all graduated there. They all did the International Baccalaureate. And it's like the premier academic school in the state, and things here are ranked, like they publish the top 100 scores in the newspapers, from a statewide average when kids graduate and so forth. And, I think it certainly has a lot of the Quaker ethos, but Quaker kids are, 2% maybe. But it's an excellent school. And I was really grateful that the kids were able to attend it because the town where we live only goes through 10th grade. So kids have to go farther afield to graduate from 12th. And the International Baccalaureate was really handy because we weren't sure whether our kids would study in the US or Australia.
Thank you. That reminds me that another important stream of students has always been the word of mouth from families who've attended Olney. So keep in mind that conditions are changing all the time and may be very different from when your children weren't the right fit. If they weren't the right fit for Olney, perhaps your grandchildren are, perhaps the times are different, perhaps Olney is different, perhaps, you know, we are always on the lookout and always appreciating student referrals for perspectives whom you might know, grandchildren, nephews, nieces, friends of friends, relatives of neighbors. You get the idea. Other questions about Olney for Olney staff?
Say, Anna Maria, a couple questions, just kind of follow up. So looking at this next fiscal year, understanding that there was a reasonable contribution from COVID-related subsidy funds, PPE, HERF, et cetera, past year, is there some residual potential funds that you're looking to receive for this next fiscal year? I know we are still receiving those at Wilmington College as an example. And kind of tied into that, you mentioned the expectations for the enrollment this fall. Do you have a projection going out the next year or two after that as far as what the numbers might look like, how you get there? And are you thinking that the mix would continue to be somewhere around 50% domestic and international? Or do you see that changing as we get out 2 or 3 years down the road? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Let's see. The first part of your question was about residual income from the COVID thing. Not that I know of.
Okay.
That would be a question I might ask of our finance director. What I can say is that damage was mitigated by the fact that the students we've had, our net tuition paid has increased steadily over the last 3 years, including last year. In other words, more of the students are paying more of their tuition, and fewer of them are being given an education, essentially, than was true a few years ago. We've been able to finish the last couple of years without increasing deficits at all, and with staying on budget. And we do expect that to continue as we continue carefully juggling all the pieces of an admission. Needs to be the right fit, needs to be able to pay a substantial amount of the tuition based on ability. And there are lots of pieces to consider. And yeah, probably the mix of international to domestic may stay the same. We kind of stepped back and focused more heavily on domestic outreach this year because the international folks were having such a hard time getting here. And yet here we are at 50%. So we'll see what happens. We'll reach out in both directions, continually moving forward. And did that answer all of the questions?
Yep. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
There. This is more on a personal note, 3 of which are directed to 3 people here, and then 1 a general question about the grounds of Olney today. As compared to the grounds that I remember 50 years ago. So I'll start with, first of all, a shout out to Erica, because I did arts and crafts fairs for years and years and years, and your sister always came by the University Street Fair. I'd never met her before until I met her at the shows, and then she would always keep me up to date on what you were doing and how you were. And so that was, I wanted to mention, because it was sweet to have that connection, even though I never actually saw you or communicated with you. I saw your sister. Yeah.
Yeah, she lives in Shoreline, just north of Seattle. She's been
Right.
teaching out there at community college forever.
Marvelous. Yeah. So that was nice. The other, Logan, I remember, of course, John Stuckey. I remember your music and your guitar playing, but Logan, I have this memory that you played the guitar too, and that you had an electric guitar at Olney the year that I was there. Am I totally off base on that, or did you ever pursue music? Or
Well, I think I did have a guitar. I think it was more of an aspiration than actually an indication of talent. And I carried that guitar around for a while, and then I think I finally sold it in college because I needed some cash. And you know, I'm sort of sorry I did, because it's a nice guitar. But
it was a nice guitar. Yeah.
I'm not. Well, actually, that's not really true. I guess at some point, several decades ago, I took up guitar again for a little while. I had an employee who was also a guitar teacher on the side, and he kind of gave me lessons. I did that for a while, but then that kind of drifted off again. So, you know, short answer is no, I'm not playing, but I still appreciate, well-crafted instruments and that kind of thing. So, very cool.
I was just curious because it was just a memory from way back a long
Yeah.
time ago. And back then, the guitar was my main instrument, until I switched to the harp and hammered Holzmer. But and then the last person, Gretchen, you mentioned that you wrote a sonnet, and you referred to my father, who of course was a prolific writer of sonnets. And I just wanted you to know that I also, he inspired me as well. I began writing sonnets a couple of decades ago, and I published a book of sonnets of my own called Whispers of the Muse from Magic Hill. But so I just wanted to mention that I'd be interested in keeping in touch with you if that's something that you pursued, and poetry is a passion.
Yes, I'd love to. And I actually wrote Takeoff on the Night Before Christmas based on the pandemic for our Christmas letter this year. So I would happily send that to anyone on the list who I didn't send it to at Christmas time. And I was also thinking, Phil, do you want to just pick up that harp and put it to good use for a minute?
Oh,
I mean, why waste this opportunity,
That's a possibility. I had entertained the idea. I don't know how well it'll come through, and I don't even know if it's in tune. This is one of my old lap harps, but let's see here.
Dave, our music.
I don't know if you can hear that. Okay.
Absolutely.
I'll play the B part. This is a tune I wrote called Celestial Winds for a Friend's Wedding. So there's a little something for you.
Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure indeed. And then the very
It
last-
seems like music was such a huge part of, singing in the bus and singing on the hay wagon and all that kind of thing. And I actually met my husband at the first time I attended a Quaker worship group, and I sold him a ticket to the concert I was singing in. And he joined the choir shortly thereafter. And the conductor was an Armenian who thought that Phil was the bee's knees, as they say here. And, it was like, he was doing all right in marrying me, but I got the real gem. So he and my brother said at our wedding how grateful he was that, I would have someone to sing with, and soon we would have young people to sing to, and we have.
Marvelous.
Thank
Marvelous.
you. Thank you. That was beautiful. Thank you so much.
Oh, my
If
pleasure
I,
indeed.
if I may, if there aren't any further questions at the moment, Shay is going to go ahead and say goodbye, and I would like to circle back around to how we can help you stay connected and how you can help us, Only Friends School. So bye, Shay. Thank you.
I did want to say one quick thing, because it's the second reunion in a row that somebody has mentioned Teacher Paul. His son Jamie is our humanities teacher here. You guys probably all know that, Phoebe's brother. And he also teaches music. But most importantly, when Logan mentioned about Teacher Paul frying donuts for everybody, like that is the kind of thing Jamie does. He always wants to like have an omelet bar for students on Sunday, or he'll want to make waffles, or he's definitely that person who wants to engage the students in those extra ways. So I'm going to share that fried donut story with him. Just to, you know, kind of give him that connection with his dad, because I think we all like to hear those kinds of things. So thanks for sharing that, Logan. And Anne Marie said, I'm going to sign off. I'm glad I got to meet everybody, and now you'll know how to pronounce my name if you ever see it on an email or a letter. Enjoy the rest of your time. It was lovely hearing about your only times. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Shay.
Bye.
So, yeah, let me ask you, have you all heard of, seen our announcements for the Zoom guest speaker program at Only this year? Yes, I see some nods. Good. This is one of the ways that we've dealt with the pandemic, and it was intended to strengthen and reconnect our connections with our alumni by allowing them to join us in these opportunities in which guests speak to our students and alumni about an area of expertise. Gretchen Stone was one of our presenters, as well as several other alumni from a variety of years. And this has turned out to be well received by alumni, and we're going to continue this. We see it as kind of the heir to what we knew as the Saturday night literary programs, in which something educational was brought to the student body, whether it was a concert or a speaker or a movie. This is our way of continuing that tradition and keeping in touch with our community. So we might like, for instance, to have a Zoom concert from Philip, if he could, or even in person, if travel becomes possible again and folks are willing and able. We welcome you, any of you, to volunteer to share your accumulated wisdom and knowledge, either in that sort of venue or to come and guest teach for a day or a week. There are many ways to give back. Maybe you know someone who might want to be one of our next teachers at Only. In the past years, we had often kind of higher faculty turnover. That's been a lot better in the last couple of years. We've had a really stable team, which is good. But at the same time, we are looking now for another art teacher for the coming year, as well as a kitchen manager who has a passion for education, teenagers, organic food, farm to table movements, Quakers, or any combination of those factors. We've just placed an ad today in several venues for that position in particular, and it will be we'll follow up with posting on social media and probably sending you constant contact emails about that as well. So are you all getting our emails? I think I've established that by all the nods about the programs. Good. Thanks for staying connected. It is an ongoing project to keep connections open with all of our extended family around the world and the country. We've discovered that all of the media of communication seem to be necessary. The more we add, they don't replace the others necessarily, and sometimes the new methods change more frequently, like email addresses are always getting updated, and phone numbers change rapidly now that we all have cell phones. So thanks for keeping in touch, and I'd love for you to make sure that we have all your updated information from time to time. Those are ways that you can help us, and we hope to help you stay connected with each other and with the rest of the Olney community. Some other classes have suggested redoing a directory. We had a paper one several years ago. We're thinking now might be a good time to try to get an online directory going that would help Olney friends find other Olney friends in various corners of the world. And so yeah, there are ways we can help each other, and that does bring me around to this year's class reunion fund drive. Hopefully you got some mention of that in the emails that we sent for this reunion, which included a link to our official document about this year's fund drive. I will include the link again in our chat box here in a minute if that is helpful. But if you'll indulge me, I would like to talk for just a few minutes about what we're doing, what we're asking, suggesting of reunion classes this year. We do hope that each of you as individuals and a class will consider a meaningful gift this year in support of our mission. Many of you contribute a lot to the annual fund, and we do appreciate that so much, but we want to offer you for this occasion some more visible, more tangible projects that are outside the scope of the annual fund. And so that's the intent of having a reunion fund drive. Our Board of Trustees has volunteered a lot of time and money to this school, and after careful consideration, they have identified these goals that align with our long-term, well, our 5-year strategy that was approved in 2019, which I can share with you, or you can find on the Olney website if you're interested. Because a major strategic goal is thoughtful management of our buildings and grounds. Repaving the driveway is top on our list this year. The last time our driveway was completely redone appears to have been 1987. And now, many years later, we have, as Christian put it in the last meeting, we have a lot of potholes full of road, as well as a road full of potholes that they've been repeatedly patched, and the patches have been patched, and yeah, it's time. And so, of course, it's a big project. There's a secondary choice is a newer Prius mostly for student transport when we don't need one of the 2 minivans that we have. We had a Prius for at least 10 years that has served us very well, and it's ready to be retired. So yeah, the driveway project is a $68,000 project to which the board has already begun to contribute, and we have some anonymous pledges that are also coming in. So what we need to raise is $65,000, and the good way to think about that is that a class and or the individuals in the class could think about how many linear yards of driveway you want to give. It's $150 for 1 linear yard. The driveway itself is 465 yards. So, for example, 100 yards of the driveway would be 15,000. 50, no, I don't have that increment, but 40 yards would be 6,000. So last year and the year before, our class reunion fund drives were increasingly successful over previous experience, keeping in mind I've been in this development seat for about 3 years. And let's see, last year, the average of 44 individual gifts was $622. So that means some gave less, some gave a lot more. The average class gift last year was almost $4,000. Again, some classes gave more, some less. And so that's the quick summary of this fund drive. And as I said, I'll send you a link to that. And at this time, I'd like to ask for any questions about this suggestion. Yes, Gretchen.
Well, I'm just thinking it would be great when we all reunite next year to not knock our false teeth out by coming down a pothole driveway. But also, I was chatting to Larry earlier, and he said, could we put our names in the cement or bitumen or whatever it is with our fingers, you know, like carve our names for each yard that, you know, the best class ever was the thought. But I guess I was on the renewal from the Roots campaign 20 years ago or so, and actually got a lot more comfortable with the concept of fundraising, because I think we were all raised to think that you do good deeds and hope the money appears. And I know, you know, lots of us aren't really in the habit of saying, golly, we actually do need money to do this. But one thing I would love to see is everybody putting in $10 if that's what people can afford to give, just having a representation from the whole class. And I heard a rumor that there might be matching funds as well. I don't know how well you've developed that, or what's happening on that score.
Yeah, I can say now that there is an anonymous donor who has a sum of money with which they offer to match amounts given by first-time donor individuals up to a ceiling of $25,000. And we hope to offer this to encourage all of our reunion classes to participate in this effort. And yes, so we have at least 25,000 that is waiting to match any contribution of I don't know, an amount from 10 to 1,000 from someone who's never donated before, who is in a reunion class, including this one. How does that sound, Gretchen?
Sounds fine to me.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, just to add to Gretchen. So Gretchen, really appreciate your comments and thoughts on this. And obviously everybody's in different situations. I know our hope would be as the best class ever. And with our 50-year anniversary, that we would be able to do something significant here. Probably in 2 ways, one in terms of amount, but even more important, as you mentioned, is as a group effort. And again, in some cases, the amount is even less important to me than the idea that as a class, we're able to come together as a group and represent that we had substantial involvement from many, if not all, of our class members. So something I'm really excited about. Glad we have the opportunity. Only happens once every 50 years that we have this kind of an opportunity. And so would really hate to have this pass us by and not do something that's meaningful and makes a statement. And so appreciate that anonymous support to help get us to a goal.
Thank you. I would like to invite each of you to communicate with me directly about anything, about any intentions that you would like to share that you may or may not want to be known to everybody else. One of the things that we can do in development is keep track of individual pledges and report back to the class what is your running total and participation level, if that makes sense. And I am now finally going to give you that link that I promised to the document that I was quoting from a few minutes ago, which again is also linked in the email that you received inviting you to
They want the door open.
meeting. What else would you like to know? I can, yeah, you can email or call me or message me on Facebook, whatever works. And we'll keep track of your pledges, your questions, your offers. And we're going to be communicating in similar ways with all the reunion classes this year. And I can also share, if that is helpful, links to our donation page on our website. In addition to the time-honored sending a check, you can also make donations online through our website via direct credit card or PayPal, as you prefer. And we can make arrangements for wire transfers from overseas, for gifts of appreciated stocks, and a wide variety of other things. What would you like to know?
Or probably if anybody has a used Prius that still runs.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Donations of vehicles would be accepted.
You take Bitcoin?
Bitcoin, not yet, but we could probably arrange to.
Yeah, I like the idea of a group, group class. I'm not sure how this would work, but I'd be happy to add something and, add a lot to my end. But I also wanted to just, this might be selfish of me, but I'm going to grab my remote camera here because I want to give you all a picture of Magic Hill, which is out my window.
Ooh.
And we have, oh, come on. Oh, it's not quite long enough. I wanted to show you the fire pit. There it is. There's the fire pit and some chairs.
Ooh.
And we have these old growth fir trees way up there. And this is what I see outside my office window. So this is where I live and work. And it's 2 o'clock in the, let's see, 2:43 in the afternoon. So it's earlier for us than you folks in the Midwest and the East Coast. But
What a lovely view. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. There was one more thing I wanted to add quickly. What was it? Oh, yes, anyone can give anonymously. That, in other words, we will know who you are, but nobody else will. Just specify that in your gift, your donation instrument, whether it's a piece of paper or an online action. And you can donate anonymously as individuals or even as a class if you wish. Last year, one of our reunion classes was really not into getting individual credit, and they wanted all of their donations to be credited to the class of, I believe it was 60. So that is also an option that you can keep in mind. And I think that I am now done with my part, and we're almost out of time anyway with what we had scheduled for this group. So I will ask one more time for any questions, and then I will seek to turn the hosting over to a volunteer, or just to bow out and let you talk for a few more minutes.
Anne-Marie, can we get access to the recording of this conversation?
Yes, definitely. It has been recorded, and already today I've uploaded a couple of other class reunions to my private YouTube on my professional account. And so I can do that, and then I can share it individually with any of you that would like to have that. Okay? So
yeah,
I will plan to do that then, and I will send the link in an email to all of you, or by request.
Maybe send it to all the people in the class
Yes.
who weren't able to participate, because I know Amy was busy today, and
okay,
and I know
yes.
she would have liked to be here. Yeah.
Yes, I can do that.
Or send it to everybody. We can always not
Yeah.
open it.
Right, right.
Just along that line, can I ask a question before we run out of time about those who aren't here? And so I know we connected with a couple people like Amy. I had some emails back and forth, so knew she was engaged, just couldn't make this meeting. I'm not sure what the situation is with the others that are not on. Jim Kirk, John Tipton, we kept getting wrong email addresses there. Phoebe isn't on. I think she had a conflict maybe. One thing I would share, so Patsy's not on the call, but she is, just by way of update, doing quite well. See her often at grandkids softball game, just last night, softball games and soccer games, and just moved into a new townhouse that's a little less work than what she's had before. And as I mentioned, all of our kids are here within a 5-mile area, so lots of engagement with the kids and doing quite well. Does anybody have a contact with John Tipton as an example?
Yeah, actually, I managed to get a hold of him about 2 weeks ago. Had a good conversation with him. And I had prefaced that I think the first time I tried to call him was after Nate's passing, and I had just sent him an email and left a message that I had some sad news. And his response was, well, I'm ready for sad news. I never like it. And we had quite a long talk, actually. And he's back in the loop. I have an email address for him. And that weird number that was circulating around that ends in 4 zeros, that is his number.
And I might say he came to the reunion 2 years ago when my sister had her 50th and stayed at the same house. And he and I had the best conversation of our lives. It was really great because he was not somebody I was terribly close to as a student. And, it's just really cool to see somebody 48 years later and realize what you have in common and can learn from each other.
Thank you. I can add a couple of pieces of information. John Stanley, I would love to get that email address that you just mentioned for John Tipton, and probably the phone number too. We have, let's see, I have Erica's email now. We have neither a phone number nor email address for Walter Brown, David Maxwell, Patsy Moffett. So I would love to have that. Okay. Logan, I don't think we have a phone number for you. That's good now. We don't have, no, we did hear regrets from John Shaw, even though we don't seem to have his email address.
Well, the fact that you heard something from him is fairly remarkable.
Okay, good.
He was actually, I saw him about 8 years ago on a layover in Tucson. It took a lot of coaxing to get him out, but once I got him out, he has a remarkable memory, and we had another full evening of conversation. So I'll keep trying. You can get information on him from either of his sisters, Ruth or Deborah.
Okay, good, good. And then there's a handful of would have, should have grads that have similar situations. We have emails for some of them, but not phone numbers for most of them. So that's what I know about that, and I encourage you to keeping in touch with each other and helping us.
Oh, Anne-Marie, FYI, and for everybody else's information, right before this started, I realized I hadn't made my contribution yet. It's kind of a pain to pull out the checkbook and everything to do it old school. And so I went onto the Albany website and I timed it just to see how long it would take to donate on a credit card. 3 minutes. You just go to support, click, it auto feeds in your information if you've donated on a credit card before. And so, 3 minutes and it's done. So I would encourage everybody to do the same.
Nice. That sounds like a cue for me to share that link. Hold on.
Actually, Emery, while you're doing that, what's the best way online to avoid the school paying fees? Do you take a hit on credit cards and PayPal and that kind of thing?
Yes, we do take a hit on either credit card or PayPal, which uses your credit card. It's about the same. And it's going to be about the same with any online method, really.
It's about 3%, isn't it?
Yes, yes, it's about 3%. Usually something like 2.9 plus 30 cents.
Right. You can't an e-check direct from a bank account?
Yes, that could work.
Oh, that's usually without fee.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that could
Yeah,
work.
if you could.
Some people do like use their bank's bill payment feature to set up even a monthly payment.
Can you
Those work
just
too.
can you just write a check?
Yeah.
If you want to go old
The easiest
school.
way.
You can even walk down the driveway and deliver it and
Well,
save the postage.
if you trust sending a check through snail mail these days.
Okay.
I think the mails have gotten a bit more reliable since things were so strange. Okay, I'm gonna.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. Okay. Here comes the alumni page. I think. Wait for it. Okay, come on. Yeah, this is the alumni page, which includes links for supporting, for staying connected, for reading the Olney Current or submitting news to the Olney Current, and much, much more, or at least a little bit more. Here is the one directly to the support page where you can make a payment through your credit card or PayPal account. And if there are no further questions.
I just was thinking, like, some of the email addresses and ground addresses on our list that you last sent out a couple months ago were not correct. So maybe if we all had an updated, that would be very nice. Especially emails. And then we can all hit reply. Matter of fact, maybe if you're able to just send an email to all of us in this class, then we can all hit reply and add anything that we neglected to say during this conversation.
Yeah, that will work. So I'll make an email with the list of all the contact information and ask you to check your own and make any corrections and talk to each other. Does that sound right?
Sounds lovely.
Okay.
And I'm just clarifying that, so Woodstock, May 28th.
Woodstock.
22, is that the Woodstock at Albany? Barnesville?
Is
Woodstock?
that commencement?
Yes.
Is May 28th commencement or June 2nd?
It is May 28th next year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I better get my facts straight then. Well, yeah, had this grandiose idea that music was such a big part. The Candlelight songs after collection, all the talent that was spawned by Olney. you know, there's so many from Phil Bolding to D.R. Stanley. And I thought, man, you get everybody together plus the 3 class reunions, it could be awesome. Don Gwendon's offered his farm for camping to have an actual 3-day event where you're not just coming, you're going around the Olney agenda. You'd get in on everything that Olney's doing, but you'd have a venue to go to kick back and enjoy people and music with Olney musicians.
And you can drink.
No.
For those
And a
that still
bonfire
invite.
at the end.
Sounds like a plan. I'm in. Never want to miss a party.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for everything. I'm
Thank you, Anne Marie.
now going to
Yes.
step back. Does anybody want to take over recording on your host computer as the host after I leave?
I'm afraid I have to take off at this
Okay.
point. I've
think-
got another engagement, but this
I
has
think a
been
lot of
wonderful.
us have to take off at this point.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I really have appreciated this. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, this has been nice.
Great to
All
see
right.
you all.
Yes.
See you next year.
May 28th, Woodstock.
Class
Thank
mother
you.
signing off.
Great seeing y'all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.